In the early 1990s, California tax authorities traveled to Las Vegas in pursuit of businessman Gilbert Hyatt. They staked out his home, dug through his trash, and hired a private eye to look into his past. They were after a piece of his fortune.
Never make a deal with an extortionist.
They don't view themselves as public servants. They view themselves as bounty hunters.
It's a story of greed, harassment, anti-Semitism, and the abuse of power. This isn't the first time the tax agency has strong-armed a citizen, but what's so unusual about Gilbert Hyatt is that he fought back.
I've waited 20 years for this.
Gilbert Hyatt made his fortune as the patent holder of the microcomputer, a predecessor of the microprocessor. Hyatt was a resident of Orange County, California, but in 1991 he packed up and relocated to Las Vegas. The following year, he was contacted by the California Franchise Tax Board.
But I didn't realize that it was going to be trouble because I had moved, I had sold my house, I was living in an apartment, and then I bought a house in Las Vegas, and I was very well settled.
An agent at the Franchise Tax Board had read an article about the potential billions of dollars in royalties pouring in as electronics companies like Philips and Sony started licensing Hyatt's technology. He decided to investigate. The tax agents concluded that his move was a sham and that he owed them more than $13 million in taxes, fees, and interest penalties.
They would not agree that I became a Nevada resident until I moved into my house, which was essentially the absurd position that you have to buy a house and move into it in order to change residence, which is not the law.
Some companies have already said goodbye to California.
254 companies of all sizes.
Many of them are just simply moving out of California.
Toyota announced it will move its national headquarters and thousands of jobs to the Lone Star State after...
California's marginal income tax rates are the nation's highest, which drives many wealthy residents to pack up and leave. Hyatt says he moved to Las Vegas because casino billionaire Sheldon Adelson, who had dreams of creating a Silicon Valley in Sin City, lured him there. No matter the reason, California didn't want to let him go.
It's mostly the attitude of many of the bureaucrats in the Franchise Tax Board. They don't view themselves as public servants. They view themselves as bounty hunters and going out and getting as much tax dollars as possible.
John Kupel is the head of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association in California. He says that California's tax agency is one of the most aggressive in the nation. California is often desperate for revenue to cover its out-of-control spending. In 1993, when tax agents began auditing Hyatt, California faced a budget deficit of $3.8 billion, the largest in the nation. The Franchise Tax Board itself faced huge cuts and even possible elimination.
There's many systemic problems with the inability to process tax returns quickly. They're abusive investigatory tactics. Gil Hyatt was an example of this.
The agency can do whatever they want, and they have the staff and the experience to do so. They are judge, jury, and executioner.
Shortly after the tax board opened its audit, an agent called Hyatt's lawyers and advised him that most people just settle because wealthy or well-known taxpayers do not want to risk having their personal financial information made public.
The Franchise Tax Board believed that I was paranoid about my privacy because I was a very private person. I worked very hard to keep my address private because I had my research lab there, and therefore went out of their way to breach my privacy in order to intimidate me.
Hyatt declined to settle and appealed. The tax agency hired a private eye to interview Hyatt's former California neighbors, 22 of whom later testified that he did indeed move away after selling his house. They also sent letters to his friends, former colleagues, and even his rabbi.
I was shocked by those letters that they were sending out for several reasons. First of all, you look at it and it looks like a criminal investigation. Second of all, it tells all of my personal relationships, businesses, entities, friends, my rabbis, that I'm in trouble with the Franchise Tax Board. And third of all, it had my Social Security number on it, which is supposed to be private.
2 agents road tripped to Las Vegas, staked out Hyatt's new house, rifled through his trash, and even took what a whistleblower later described as a trophy photo of his home. This same whistleblower testified that her colleague, an agent named Sheila Cox, vowed to get that Jew bastard.
I was horrified when I learned that she was a racist who had targeted me for my religion.
Hyatt ended up fighting a 25-year court battle, spending more than $10 million. The state of California spent more than $25 million in the fight, according to the tax agency's spokesman. It all came down to a hearing before the Board of Equalization this August. Although he has a professional legal team, Hyatt decided to speak for himself.
I've waited 20 years for this.
The board ruled in Hyatt's favor, though it did conclude that he continued to operate portions of his business out of California during the disputed 6-month period. For this, he was ordered to pay $1.9 million out of the approximately $55 million the tax agency claimed he owed in taxes, interest, and penalties. And the board confirmed that he was indeed a Nevada resident during this time. Hyatt also sued the Franchise Tax Board for fraud and harassment, and a Nevada jury awarded him a $388 million judgment that was ultimately reduced to $50,000 because of a statutory cap on the amount state agencies can be held liable for their conduct.
Somebody has got to stand up against them. Power will corrupt, and as the cliche is, the power to tax is a power to destroy.